Hey, what's going on? I'm Matt O'Leary back with another video, and today I'll be discussing the 5 biggest disappointments from the 2020 Jets season. Before we get started today, just wanted to mention that you can follow along with me on social media at Matt O'Leary NY. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever it is that you get your podcasts. You can call in, leave me a question. I'll try to get to it on the show. And last but not least, check out the Patreon, patreon.com/Matt O'Leary NY for bonus content. So obviously, as the Jets sit 0-9, likely on their way to an 0-16 season, there's been a lot of things that have been disappointing. But what I wanted to talk about were the 5 biggest things that disappointed me so far in the 2020 season. I'll start at 5, work my way up to 1, starting from least to most. So 1 obviously is the thing that I'm most disappointed in. Coming in at number 5 is Gregg Williams, the defensive coordinator. Last year, the 2019 Jets had a really solid defense. They were 10th overall in defensive DVOA, and for the most part, they overachieved. Yes, they lost Jamal Adams going into this year, and I figured they would take a little bit of a step back. But the step back the Jets took was a massive one. They went from 10th to 28th. A top 10 defense to a bottom 5 is unbelievable. That's a massive step backwards. On top of that, there's been dirty plays at the end of the Denver game, for example, and that just seems to follow Gregg Williams around. Like, he's just someone who his defenses are always undisciplined. And last year, the Jets were able to get by with that. This year, not so much. It's reared its ugly head, and it's been really bad this year. It's taken a significant step backwards, which makes me upset. Him favoring Alec Ogletree over Avery Williamson in the beginning of the year is another reason why he gets a bad mark on my score and comes in at number 5 for disappointing things. And then lastly, the rift between him and Adam Gase. What he said earlier on the season wasn't necessarily wrong about it not completely being on the defense, but to throw the coach and the offense under the bus like that, it's not a wise move. Again, was he right? Yeah, he was, but that's not the thing you just come out and say. That's how you go 0-16. He was on a 0-16 team just a couple of years ago in Cleveland. Like, this guy is a tank god. He is, and it's coming to fruition right now. So Gregg Williams, massive step backwards. Defense, massive step backwards. That's disappointing to me. Coming in at number 4 is the secondary. Again, yes, the Jets lost Jamal Adams. That was going to have an impact on this team in 2020. I understand that, but even the guys who are here and brought in just haven't been very good. Pierre Desir is downright awful. He stumbled into some interceptions this year, but he can't cover anyone. He looks worse than Tremaine Johnson, which is saying something. Bless Austin, great tackler. He plays hard and his effort is good, but he just can't cover anyone. He's probably better suited as a safety in this league, or at least I'd like to see him with another defensive coordinator. Bless, really good at coming up and making tackles, not so great in coverage right now. That's disappointing. And Bradley McDougald, when he was brought in, the expectation was, yes, that it was going to be a step back, but at least he's like a solid starting caliber safety. When he was on the field, he was really bad. He was a bottom tier safety. He did not look starting level, and he could not get things going. He's on IR. He will not play again. It'll be all Asher Davis the rest of the way, which he struggled in his first game, but looked much, much better this past week against the Patriots. Overall, though, even with the Marcus May playing well, even with Brian Poole playing well, the secondary as a unit has been really, really bad, so they are disappointing as well. Number 3 on my list is Conor Mcgovern. He signed a pretty big contract to come in here and was supposed to stabilize a unit that has been really bad ever since Nick Mangold retired. They had Wesley Johnson for a little bit. Spencer Long was a disaster. Last year they tried to go with Khalil and Jonathan Harrison. That didn't really work out, so the idea of this signing was to stabilize the position, and he hasn't really been that good. He has a 52.2 Pro Football Focus grade, and last year he was a top 10 center in the league. That's not top 10 center numbers. It's bottom third, probably. Like, if you had to list where he is, probably like somewhere between 20 and 25, which is okay, but you're expecting him and paying him to be a top tier starting center, which he hasn't been. The interior of the offensive line has been really, really bad, especially the guard position, so maybe that's part of the reason why he's regressed so badly, but at this point, he's been definitely disappointing. Now, I'm not saying he's not going to be on the roster next year. Maybe he moves over to guard, which is another position that he can play. He's a versatile piece, and I'm not giving up on him just yet, but if you're looking at just the 2020 season, he's definitely been disappointing. Up and down, streaky player so far. Would like to see him improve in 2021 and should get better as well. Number 2 is Sam Darnold. Yes, it is not just on Sam Darnold, but he really hasn't been good. 3 touchdown passes in 6 games, 5.5 yards per attempt, 174 yards per game passing. He's regressed. He has. And I know there are so many circumstances around why he has played poorly, but he is not the same quarterback that he was last year or the year before, which is why if they are picking in the top 3, which seems really, really likely, they are going to move on because, again, he's heading into his 4th year after this year. You have to decide your 5th-year option. He's going to start to make some significant money, which is not good when he's a major question mark still at this point in his career. Now, could he turn it around and have a good career? Yeah, I believe that he can. I'm just not willing to bet the price tag that it's going to cost to keep him around that he's able to turn around here. If you trade him for a 2nd-round pick and maybe a late-round pick and send him to Indy, Pittsburgh, the 49ers, wherever, pick a quarterback-needy team, and he figures it out, okay, I would not be surprised one bit. But betting on that to happen here based on what we've seen this year is way too risky. It's really sad because heading into this year, I thought he would be able to overcome the bad coaching and at least show that, okay, like he's a starting quarterback who's going to play 16 games a year. He's already missed 3 games this year for the 3rd time in his career. He's on pace to play 13 games. He should play after the bye this week, and I would much more rather watch him play quarterback than Joe Flacco. But unfortunately, it looks like Sam Darnold is not going to be here in 2021, which is really depressing, and it's a restart, and I was rooting for this guy. I wanted him to be really good, and heading into this year, my expectations were high. Even after the first few games, I thought maybe he could turn it around. But halfway through the season at this point, in the bye week, they look like they're going to go 0-16, and he hasn't taken that step forward. Coming in at number 1 is Adam Gase. Is there anyone else you could be more disappointed in? The expectations were really low going into this year, and he's even underachieved those. So he underachieved in 2019. Yes, they went 7-9, but we know it was because of the defense, and it was a phantom 6-2 down the stretch. Everyone with a brain knew that down the stretch of 2019. Somehow the offense got worse this year. They were really, really bad last year. They are the worst in football by far. Like, not even remotely close. They are not scoring multiple touchdowns a game outside of last week. And they got a random really good Joe Flacco game. Rashad Perryman, who was just on the outside of this list. He could be an honorable mention on this top 5. He's been really bad outside of this past week. If he doesn't put up numbers like this past week, maybe he makes his way into the top 5, but there's just so many things wrong with this team that he did not make my top 5. But the offense has just been so bad, and I understand that they are limited with the personnel, but he does not do his team any favors. It's been vanilla. Dowell Loggins has been a better play caller than him, which is scary because Dowell Loggins isn't a great play caller, but yes, he is better than Adam Gase, and this is the worst coach in football. There is no debate about it. He is not going to be back in 2021. The reasons why people like me were so skeptical of him being hired in 2019 are being personified by this season. I did not think it was going to be this bad. I didn't think he was going to be as bad as what he has been in these 2 years, but this is like beyond worst case scenario, and he is the biggest reason why the New York Jets are where they are right now, on pace to go 0-16 with an awful point differential, with the historically bad offense. It's just really, really bad, and he's going to be gone. So those 5 things are my biggest disappointments for 2020. Let me know in the comments down below what your 5 disappointments are. There's a ton of them. There's really no wrong answers to this, so drop them down below in the comments or on social media at Matt O'Leary NY. Make sure to subscribe if you're new here, and I will talk to you next time.